welcome back to another midweek moment. Over the last few weeks on my desk, I've had two different planners. I've had my 2020 planner and I've had my 2021 planner. And to be honest with you, I am so ready to move into 2021. I look at what happened in 2020 and there are so many plans that went awry, so many things that just didn't happen the way that we anticipated that they would. But before we move into 2021, maybe we should ask ourselves, what do we want 2021 to look like? I want to share with you today something super practical, something that I have used in my life over the last decade as I enter into each new year. Now, a lot of people, as they enter into a new year, make New Year's resolutions, and I used to be one of those people. And I had the best of intentions, but you know what? I struggled to keep them. I found myself failing repeatedly. And statistically, this is the case. People who make New Year's resolutions, after 30 days, only 25% have successfully kept them. And after a year, that goes down to 8%. Which means that so many of us are destined to fail at that. But what if there's a different way? What I started doing a decade ago was thinking of a word for the year. Now, this is different than a word of the year. A word of the year is often something that is used in retrospect. It's something that the Oxford English Dictionary does every year. And they look back on the year and they look at some of those buzzwords. And so for 2020, it's words like coronavirus and pandemic and social distancing and a whole bunch of negative words that we're just ready to move on from. But a word for the year is not something that looks retrospectively, but it's something that looks prospectively toward the future. What do we want our life to be defined by? How do we want our life to be different in the year ahead? And particularly as Christians, how can our life become more Christ-like? And so for the last decade, in the weeks leading up to the new year, I will take some time to prayerfully discern what my word for the year is going to be. And I want to invite you to consider this practice as you move into 2021. It comes down to a number of simple steps. The first step is just to reflect, to carve out some time to ask yourself some questions. Questions like, who do you want to be in the new year? What do you want to be less of? What do you want to be more of? What characteristics that are Christ-like would you like to exhibit more of in your life? So step one, reflect. Step two, brainstorm. Make a list. Now this could mean that you go online and you do a Google search for words for the year and you can find a list of 100 different words to consider. And then maybe you narrow it down to a few that you might like to consider. Or maybe this means that you spend some time talking to those who are closest to you and just ask, what are some changes that I might need to make in my life? So after you spend some time reflecting and after you spend some time going through and brainstorming a list, then prayerfully pick one word. One word that settles into your soul and you realize, yeah, there's some work to do here. God is definitely leading me in this direction. After you've done that, think about ways that you can apply this to your life. Maybe it's in terms of your personal life, your health choices. Maybe it's in terms of your relationships with your family or your marriage. Maybe it's in terms of the work that you do. For me, every year after I find a word that I settle on, I start to look for books that I can read to help me to reflect upon that and to integrate that word more into my everyday life. Then the next thing to do is to find a Bible verse. Look at God's Word and see if there is a word from His Word that can flesh out that word, that can be something that you memorize, that you meditate on in your everyday life. And then the final step is to put that word in front of you, is to pray through it regularly. Maybe you put it on a sticky note, or maybe you find some piece of home decor that you can put in your room or put in your living room and put that in front of you. Last year, the phrase that I chose for the year that I believe that the Lord was leading me to was strong and courageous. And I had no idea. The global pandemic wasn't even on the horizon, and yet God knew, and God was preparing me for that. This year, the word that He's led me to is rest. Because I find myself tired and overwhelmed at times, and I'm pushing to achieve, and I want to be in control of the future. And God says, just find your rest in me. Release control to me. And so I'm exploring that in my life in the upcoming days and weeks and months. I wonder, what is that word for you? Spend some time reflecting on that, and then I'd love to have you share that in the comment section. What's the word for the year that the Lord is leading you to? There's so much that lies ahead for us in 2021. I'm excited to go there with you. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you again next time.